I don't know if you noticed this, but on every interview that we've played, whether it was like Raskin or Doggett or Nancy Pelosi, they've been asked, have you spoken to the president since the debate? And the answer has been no.
Yes, J.B. Pritzker said the same thing last night on CNN, and Caitlin Collins pressed him for maybe 10 minutes straight about trying to get him to say Biden should drop out. But basically, he was, because there was also a call with the Democratic governors, and they have not heard from Biden either. Or he said, I've spoken to the campaign, but not Biden himself. And as we speak, I think I saw someone reported the White House schedule, 12:30 lunch between Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. There were reports that he hadn't even really spoken to her either.
There's also a new job posting for Kamala Harris social media to amplify her voice in the coming months. So
can I do that on the side, Sam?
Yeah, Emma's been auditioning all morning.
Just a repeated posts of mama la, mama la, mama la.
The coconut emoji.
Mama la, mama
it's
la.
interesting because the other part of that reporting is that he's not been talking to congressional leaders, which is odd at this time. Particularly, it's not like people didn't know on Friday after the debate that people were freaking out. So the normal course of events would be for the president to get on the phone with some key people and say, hey, look, I had a bad night. I get it. I took some, I accidentally reached for the Ambien when I was trying to reach for, the Zyrtec or whatever it is. And that's what happened. But instead, it seems like they have distanced themselves from congressional leaders, other electeds, and have only been in basically getting advice from Jill Biden, Hunter Biden, apparently his granddaughters. And like this is like insular type of stuff.
It's like Trump.
It's a little bit Trumpy, and it's not what you would expect for them to mount an effort. I mean, the obvious thing is you get your candidate out there and get them out there, and the obvious reason as to why that hasn't happened, because it's not like it would be weird for a presidential candidate to be all over the place in the midst of a presidential campaign. The obvious answer is that they just don't feel confident in sending Biden out there. And then, Emma, this is from the New York Times.
So Biden told ally he is weighing whether to continue in the race, the Times reported. Now, as we mentioned earlier, the White House was upset about this report, said that the Times did not give them enough time to comment, and refuted it. However, this does not seem far-fetched. You want to scroll down a little here, Bradley. President Biden has told a key ally that he knows he may not be able to salvage his candidacy if he cannot convince the public in the coming days that he is up for the job after a disastrous debate performance last week. The president, who the ally emphasized is still deeply in the fight for re-election, understands that his few appearances heading into the holiday weekend, including an interview scheduled for Friday with George Stephanopoulos of ABC News, and campaign stops in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin must go well. He knows if he has two more events like that, we're in a different place by the end of the weekend, said the ally, referring to Mr. Biden's halting and unfocused performance in the debate. The person spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss a sensitive situation. Andrew Bates, a White House spokesman, said the claim was, quote, absolutely false, and that the White House had not been given enough time to respond, as I alluded to there. I
like how it's, if he has two more events like that,
then he'll know. Like, what is it? It just hasn't set in yet.
But here's the thing. The debate performance is not what needs to be recovered from at this point. It is the compounding effects of every freak out and everyone having eyeballs. 100%. The most apolitical people I know are focused on this right now. And I've heard things from like, this is why I don't care about politics, to this is why the Democrats are no different than the Republicans, because they were lying this whole time about him. It presents a massive problem in that way. And that's why I said a few days ago that it's a huge benefit to the Democrats to be the party that listens to discontent and makes a change, because these are even, too deeply unpopular candidates, it makes Hillary Clinton versus Trump look like prime Obama versus Reagan in that sense. I mean, like, we're at this point where everybody is deeply discontent about the candidates. So it's an advantage for Democrats to change course in that regard. But that's the problem for Biden. It's not the debate performance. It's not about recovering. It's about the fact that there has now been a nearly week-long news cycle in which the entirety of the media is saying the same thing that the campaign keeps trying to get people to ignore and gaslight about, which is that Biden has suffered serious decline. I saw a side-by-side. It's not worth it to play because it was like a Russell Brand video or something. And I know that these are like Republican operative efforts. But the side-by-side of Biden in the primary debates versus the one versus Trump, it's night and day, and that was only 4 years ago.
And the line that they need to get to was in there, which is that Biden still thinks he can do it, but he recognizes that he's lost the confidence of the American people, and that's actually rather important in a campaign, and so he's going to step aside for that reason.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that's setting up, defeat with dignity, I guess, or whatever it is, retreat with dignity. I mean, I think that, like, it also just feels like what they're attempting to do to push back is insufficient. And it almost feels like, because it's not going to be enough for him to give a speech at a campaign rally. It's not going to be enough for a pre-recorded, edited interview to do it. Those are moments that could hurt him, theoretically, but they're not moments that could help him enough. I mean, he really needs to be able to show that he can speak extemporaneously. And they don't seem to be putting him into that type of situation.
And also, I mean, he needs to be able to change a narrative that is now united in he needs to be replaced. Or yeah. when there are open conversations about the replacement of the incumbent president, that's a bigger blow to the strength that he's trying to portray as an incumbent than the performance even in and of itself. The fact that
it reminds me of an old Ann Landers or Dear Abby column where somebody wrote in, Dear Abby, how can I tell if my relationship is in trouble? And she said, when you're asking that question.
Exactly. Right. When you're writing in to me. Yeah. So, like, imagine just for a second a strategy of chiding people into not believing their lying eyes for the next 4 months.
Yeah, I mean, I think it seems to be untenable. And the real question is like, how permeable is that inner circle that Biden has done? I think as more and more people come out, I mean, it feels like it's pretty permeable at one point. And I would be surprised if this happened any quicker than it's happening at this point. I mean, this has been pretty dramatic, and I suspect they're waiting for another poll to come out. Accordingly, according to reporting, there's going to be, or there has been, an all-staff meeting at the White House today to calm everybody. There was a memo sent out. That all-staff meeting, I've been in these pizza parties. Always beware when the boss brings pizza to a party. It's not a good sign. But when there's pizza, everybody's in the room. That is a problem. But they are apparently, according to this Politico piece, nervous about a forthcoming New York Times poll that's going to show more significant deterioration. There's been a bunch of polls. Some have not been as bad as others. None of them have been sort of devastating. But remember, this is a very tight race, and he was already down. So dropping more from that point is exactly the opposite of what you want, particularly after the first debate. We have been talking about this debate for a couple of months since it's been set, essentially. And the theory was get Donald Trump out in the public, and this is going to begin his deterioration of support. And the exact opposite has happened. And
I don't know how the polls are not devastating, though, that we read yesterday, the leaked ones that were internal in the Democratic Party
you got to wonder who is leaking Democratic polls in this instance. But
the CNN ones weren't leaked, and that showed Biden being down by 10 points against Trump with independents and Harris leading Trump by 3 points with independents. Yeah, that was the CNN post-debate polling.
Without a doubt. The next question is, who will replace Biden? And I really think this is, listen, I don't know who would be my favorite candidate to replace Biden in a fantasy world, but I haven't had the time to engage in fantasy. The only person who really can do this, in terms of because we're 4 months out. We are 4 months out from an election, right? We're in July. The election's in November.
Parliamentary 11. Systems do it. They, they have shorter elections. It's Jacinda Ardern,
but they don't have the kind of money that we're talking about. And so you've got $92 million in the bank in the Biden campaign. There is only one person who is eligible to get that money on day one, and that is Kamala Harris. There is nobody else who is eligible under federal election laws to get that money. The money can go through different various super PACs and whatnot to support another candidate, but that super PACs, they do not get the discounted TV rates. There is only one potential candidate right now who has an apparatus that pre-exists today. And that is Kamala Harris. She was part of that ticket. There's only one person who's really been on the ballot to some extent in all these primaries. That's Kamala Harris. If you wait until August to do some type of open convention, aside from all of the other sort of ridiculousness around it, you are giving that candidate only 3 months to campaign. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.